Welcome back, Irish fans, to Breaking Down Braves Boys podcast. Notre Dame finished up their regular season yesterday with a win against Pitt on Senior Day, and I finished up my coverage of it as well. So, exciting regular season, definitely a fun one to cover, much more fun than last year to cover. And looking forward to March. March is normally when the fun starts, and started a little bit yesterday, and hopefully for Notre Dame, the fun will continue over the next few weeks. So, they're going to Brooklyn in a couple of days. They'll play on Thursday against the winner of Wake Forest versus the winner of Clemson and NC State. It's really complicated if you don't have a bracket in front of you, but Notre Dame will probably see Virginia Tech. They might see one of those other two teams, but now they're in a position heading into this tournament that is not the same as a team like Virginia Tech, which I think is really ideal. They're in a position where they're more or less playing for seeding. Obviously, if you lose to a team like NC State, drop like a quad 3 game, then things get a little more interesting. But I think Notre Dame's in a much better spot than a lot of teams in the league. There's probably 3 teams in the league that are guaranteed a berth, and that would be Notre Dame, North Carolina, Duke. So commendable for Notre Dame for locking it up more or less before they head to the tournament. I think it's starting to trend a little bit to where they're not completely safe, but to me they're in. And if they lose the first game, maybe they get a play-in, or if they lose to a really bad team the first game, they don't get a play-in and they're done. But it's really hard for me to see a way that they don't make the tournament now. And I think the 2 seed in the league gets them in the tournament regardless, 15 league wins, 2 quad 1s, and they're going to have another opportunity to pick up a quad 1 most likely this week. So really solid position Notre Dame has put themselves in. And in terms of the bracket, they put themselves in a solid spot too. They avoid Duke and Wake Forest and Florida State until the championship, and they'll only see one of those teams. Those are maybe the 3 teams they match up the worst with out of anyone in the league. And Virginia Tech, they also don't match up very well. Gosh, I got to stuff it in my charger. But Virginia Tech, they don't match up super well with, but definitely not on the level of those teams. Those teams really are not teams that Notre Dame would like to see, I'm sure. And I'm glad Notre Dame does not match up with them. So overall, I like their draw. I like the position they have going into it. Now they just got to win some games and help themselves out a little bit heading into the NCAA tournament. So I'm going to start with the first matchup, Virginia Tech. Well, Notre Dame's going to play the winner of Virginia Tech versus Clemson/NC State. Clemson just beat VT yesterday, so certainly not out of the realm of possibilities that Notre Dame doesn't see Virginia Tech, but if they do, that's not the matchup I would have loved. I would really have liked to see Virginia move into that 7th seed and VT move up to the 6th, so Notre Dame wouldn't have to see them. But Virginia Tech is obviously a winnable game. There's a reason they're the 7th seed, Notre Dame's the 2 seed. But Notre Dame also lost to them by 6 in Blacksburg, and Notre Dame is really going to struggle to get stops to me in this game. They can't really play small ball against them. Aluma and Mutz are 2 guys who are super mobile. They're able to defend small ball at a high level on the perimeter, move their feet. They're agile and mobile enough to kind of get out there and defend Dane Goodwin on the perimeter, or Cormac Ryan, whoever's playing the 4. And Notre Dame can't really defend those 2 guys with 4 guards on the floor. So that kind of eliminates a dimension of what Notre Dame wants to do against a team like that. And Notre Dame is really going to be in a pickle defensively. Do you want to play man and then have to man up on Keve Aluma and Justin Mutz? Mutz just completely torched Paul Atkinson last game, was just working him inside out, was hitting threes, was backing him down, pretty much did whatever he wanted, had 24 points, was 9 of 11 from the field, 7 rebounds. Keve Aluma could do the same if he's in a proper matchup. I think Nate Laszewski is actually the big I would like to have Keve Aluma, or on Keve Aluma. There's not many in the league I take above Nate in terms of defending a guy like that. But when you can't play them with 1 big on the floor and expect to get stops, and you also are in a mismatch with Paul Atkinson and Justin Mutz. So it's really hard to play man against them, and you'd prefer to play man against VT's guards, who Aline's the only one who can really get separation, and man allows Cormac Ryan and Blake Wesley to really get up into guys and cut off their driving lanes and make things harder on them. And you're probably going to have to drop into a zone to slow down Aluma and Mutz. That leaves open looks for their guards who really can't create all that much for themselves. Storm Murphy can get into the lane and find guys, and he's going to be able to do that a little bit against the zone. He's going to be able to kind of toy with the zone, pick it apart, and that's certainly not ideal for Notre Dame. There's a reason VT shot 50% from three last time against Notre Dame, and maybe that's not replicable, whatever you want to say. I don't think they'll be able to replicate that for sure, but Notre Dame's really going to have to find a way to get stops in this game, and I don't think the defensive intensity is going to be an issue. I think it's going to be the matchup is going to be really tough for them, and they basically have a part of their offense, which is small ball. They like to move it around and open up the lane a little bit with small ball. They're really going to have a tough time doing that, and this is when having a third big would really help Notre Dame. It's not going to be great when they don't have a third big here, but I do think they can beat Virginia Tech. Obviously, the matchup is not great. I would have loved if they would have been able to play like Virginia and Miami rather than VT and UNC, but there's a reason Virginia Tech is the 7th seed. They haven't really beat anybody. They're mediocre defensively. Notre Dame was really able to get into good offensive rhythm against them last time on the road in front of a packed house. They blew a lead, but I really don't think Virginia Tech can really hold them. Defensively, VT also runs a slow pace, which is better than playing a fast pace in this type of environment, especially because Notre Dame plays 7. They're playing back-to-back days. You want to play against slow paces so you can kind of conserve the legs a little bit. Obviously, you're not going to have fully conserved legs playing back-to-back days, but playing against Virginia Tech and a pace like that is really going to help Notre Dame in terms of just not having completely dead guys heading into the next game. And then Virginia Tech, I don't think has anywhere near the level of guards that Notre Dame has. Storm Murphy's fine. He's also a Wofford transfer. Naheem Aline's good. He's no Blake Wesley. And Hunter Couture I really like. I also don't think he's Dane Goodwin, though. So I think Notre Dame's guards are better. Guards win in March. And we'll see if Notre Dame's guard play can kind of override this matchup. They're going to have to outscore VT more than getting stops. So should be a really interesting matchup if it happens. I'm not sure I love Notre Dame's chances. They'll probably actually be an underdog in this game, I'd assume, just based on the past result and everything like that. But they're going to play 7 o'clock on Thursday against them or Clemson or NC State. I'd much rather see Clemson than NC State. Notre Dame ran Clemson out of the gym twice, albeit one time they were shorthanded. Still don't have Hunter Tyson. And I do think it's somewhat realistic Notre Dame sees them, but I'm guessing that it will be Virginia Tech. NC State would actually be the team I'd prefer not to see out of the Clemson-NC State game just because they have a few explosive scorers in Seabron, Smith, and Helms. Those guys can really put it on the floor and score, and you do not want to see that in the tournament setting. So NC State, please do not win against Clemson. I would love to see Clemson. Notre Dame has kind of found the formula to beat Clemson, and I don't think Clemson has the offensive firepower to beat Notre Dame. They also play a little bit slower. That would help. So Clemson would be my ideal matchup out of the 3. Virginia Tech, certainly not the matchup you want. And NC State, Notre Dame's probably going to beat NC State, but I'd be a little nervous for that one. So also keep in mind Virginia Tech would be a quad 1, and then Clemson. Let me look up the net real quick, get you some real facts. But I'm pretty sure Clemson and NC State would not be quad 1 games. So it would certainly look better on the resume if Notre Dame beat a team like VT. But you take a win in pretty much any game. I'd rather have a quad 2 or quad 3 win than a quad 1 loss. So Virginia Tech is in quad 1, ranked 36th. Even after that loss, they have to stay in the top 50. And let me find the others. Oh, Notre Dame cracked 49th in the net. Yeah, these teams are really far down. Clemson's 85th, so that's a quad 2. And I'm assuming North Carolina State is much farther down. So yeah, we're getting some live research in here. Yeah, North Carolina State is really far down. I'd assume that's a quad 3 game. But Notre Dame is going to have a big opportunity if they play Virginia Tech to add one more win on the resume. And another opportunity they'd have is beating North Carolina, who almost helped Notre Dame out a ton by getting into quad one. They're 2 spots away, and I assume if they win their first tournament game and see Notre Dame, then Notre Dame's win from January will turn into a quad one, give them a third quad one win. So definitely root for North Carolina on a Thursday night. Root for North Carolina unless you don't want to see them. I think North Carolina is a little bit better of a matchup than Virginia Tech. You saw they beat Duke, and that's the scary thing about North Carolina. They're a Jekyll and Hyde team. They lost to Pitt at home and just looked abysmal. They've had a lot of games this year where they've just looked not good at all, and then they go into Duke and win by 13. So obviously they have the Armando Bacot advantage, but I really don't think their front court is that developed outside of Armando Bacot. Brady Manick is going to have trouble guarding Notre Dame's small ball, and he's not really a huge post-up guy, so Notre Dame, I think, could get away with going small against UNC. I think they did the first time a little bit. And UNC also doesn't really guard anyone, so Notre Dame could offset. If they have troubles down low, they could offset it by just simply outscoring UNC. Notre Dame could play man against them. Kind of just have to be cognizant of Armando Bacot. You know he's going to get his, just can't allow other guys to get theirs. And I think they're going to be fine with that. They have Blake and Cormac, who can do a fine job on RJ Davis and Caleb Love. Notre Dame can play small on them. Brady Manick can't really guard out there. And if Manick has to come out of the game because he can't guard out there, then UNC is going to be a significant disadvantage. You saw they played 5 guys only in the entire second half against Duke. So it tells you what they think about their depth. But UNC is going to want to get up and down a bit, which is the one thing I don't really like. Also, I don't like Armando Bacot playing against Notre Dame. But most of their possessions are going to be a quick 3 or an Armando Bacot post touch. So it's going to come down to whether UNC shoots it well. Armando's going to get his, but I wonder at what level they'll shoot threes. So the big thing with UNC is which UNC are they going to get? I don't know if Notre Dame really has much of a chance against that UNC team we saw at Cameron on Saturday. But if the team that played Pitt is going to come out on Friday night, Notre Dame's going to wallop them. So they're definitely less consistent than Notre Dame, and that's part of the reason why I'm doing Virginia prep as well. The winner, so the bracket goes Louisville, Georgia Tech, then winner of that plays Virginia, winner of that plays North Carolina. So I would be much more comfortable seeing Louisville or Georgia Tech than I would be NC State. Louisville, I guess maybe I would not like to see, but Georgia Tech, I don't think Georgia Tech's beating Louisville. I don't think Louisville is beating Virginia. So if you want to hear more about Louisville and Georgia Tech, watch those post-game shows. I doubt you do, though, because I don't think Notre Dame will see them. Virginia is the other team. Notre Dame beat them by 4 in South Bend, and the game wasn't really that close. Notre Dame kind of just fell apart at the end. Obviously, Notre Dame's had some trouble beating Virginia over the years, and North Carolina killed Virginia when they played. But UVA is essentially the polar opposite of UNC. They love to slow it down. It's good. That would help Notre Dame a little bit more than playing UNC for the legs, at least. They don't have super explosive guards. I'd rather see Virginia than North Carolina. I don't think they're a horrible matchup at all for Notre Dame. Obviously playing at home helped them against Virginia, but Virginia is not your older brother's Virginia. Jaden Gardner was great last time they played Notre Dame. I think Laz can do an okay job on him, though, and their guards I don't think have enough to offset Notre Dame's guards. So I would be fine playing Virginia. The scary thing is, though, Notre Dame hasn't had really any success against Virginia prior to this year. So definitely interesting. And looking through UNC, I have one more note. UNC switched everything against Notre Dame the first time, and that really allowed Notre Dame's offense to get opened up. So I would love to see if Hubert Davis kind of has something there in terms of a coaching adjustment to slow down Laz, who got either a hedge or a switch every time and had open 3, scored 20 points, maybe his best game of the year against UNC. And guys like Brady Manick are switched on to Blake Wesley, just creates huge mismatches. And UNC, I don't really think has the chops to defend Notre Dame. And yeah, I mean, I'm honestly more scared of Virginia Tech than UNC, but both those teams could beat Notre Dame on a good day. UNC plays like they did on Saturday, Notre Dame has no shot really, unless they're just unbelievable offensively. If Virginia Tech plays the way they did against Notre Dame the first time in front of what will likely be a pro-Virginia crowd, it's much closer than Notre Dame, one of the closer schools to Brooklyn, I think Notre Dame could be in trouble. So it's certainly not going to be a cakewalk for Notre Dame. No ACC tournament is, and these teams are going to play Notre Dame tough. Anytime you see North Carolina in March, it's not great. They even won a game or two when they had Cole Anthony on the team, and they were like 11-15 in the league, or not even like they had like 5 league wins that year or something. But UNC is always going to be tough. Virginia Tech, this team is tough, and Notre Dame's going to have trouble, I think, getting to the championship. If they get there, they're probably going to see Duke. Probably, I would guess Duke, maybe Wake Forest, maybe Miami. But, man, I would love to see Miami in the championship. I don't think out of the top 7 seeds, Miami is the one I would have liked to see the most. I just think Notre Dame is such a good matchup for Miami. I think Notre Dame would have a great time against them, but you're likely going to see Duke or Wake Forest in the championship. I don't think Duke is going to get upset in this thing. It was the dog days of the regular season when they lost, and now this is March, and Duke, I think, is going to step up. Notre Dame gets to the championship, they're going to see them, and obviously, based on that first matchup, Duke is not a great straight-up matchup for Notre Dame, and we saw that just so much athleticism, so much size, and they can score, they can defend, they can rebound. Duke doesn't have many holes in their team, and some of those holes will get exploited against like a Purdue in the tournament, but Notre Dame's going to have a tough time exploiting those. The only shot they have is just to have an unbelievable shooting performance. They got to stay composed, though, against Duke the first time. They weren't, and it's tough. It was tough for them. It's just a really tough matchup just because of the size, and I don't really see a way they beat Duke. That would be unbelievable if they beat Coach K in the championship of ACC tournament in his last ACC tournament, but it's going to be really tough. And I think just getting to the championship's a win for this Notre Dame team after all they've been through, and basically getting into the ACC championship for any team but Duke would be a huge win. So I think Notre Dame certainly can get there. They're going to have a tough time, though. Virginia Tech is tough. North Carolina is really going to if they're on their best, they're really going to challenge Notre Dame, and I would assume they're going to be close to their best because they're in a conference tournament setting. So Notre Dame's certainly not going to have a cakewalk. If I had to guess, I would say that it's tough because I want to say that they're going to make the championship, but they got a fine draw. They could have got a lot worse of a draw, but man, they're going to have a tough time getting there. There's some really good teams in their side of the bracket. Well, maybe not even great teams, just teams that they are going to have some trouble with just based on the matchups and everything. Not having a third big might come back to bite them this week, but I'm gonna go with a bold prediction and say they do make it to the ACC title game and drop it to Duke, but they would be fine with that. They'd probably end up with 2 quad 1 wins if that was the case, and not knowing who they're gonna play definite, I'm gonna go for it and say they make it there. That's a soft prediction. Don't hold me to that. But if I had to guess, I think this team is experienced enough, and I think they're gonna play at a high enough level in March to make some noise here and get there and help their seeding a little bit in the March Madness. So it should be a really interesting week. ACC tournament week is always really fun. If they have post-game or if they have games back-to-back days, you'll see back-to-back post-game shows. And really looking forward to covering this event. I covered the ACC tournament last year, only 2 games though, and it was fun, but this will be more fun doing the post-game shows and everything. So be on the lookout for those, and thank you guys for watching. Hope you learn more about Notre Dame's matchups here and how they match up with these teams. And thank you guys for watching. I'll be back Thursday night for Notre Dame versus Virginia Tech / Clemson / NC State post-game show. So thank you guys for watching, and peace.